Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with our first semi-finalist, the three-time and current world champion, and widely considered the greatest player of all time, the Zerg in the blue, the finisher. It's Serral, facing off against the only other player really in that conversation, the former world champion Zerg. In the red, we have Rogue, in a best-of-7 Zerg versus Zerg semi-finals, the winner of which will move on to the RSL Grand Finals live at BlizzCon. So before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button or maybe even subscribe. Help me count to the algorithm. And Jimmy, yes, I know it's a mirror matchup, but it's Serral versus 1,894 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As the overlords casually gliding and strolling into the bases as the queens, only marginally faster, will strongly encourage them to stay away. But that's why Zerg versus Zerg is so both strategic and cheesy all at the same time. It's a knife fight in a phone booth. You know you're gonna get stabbed. The question is where they're going to stab you first and whether you can stab back even harder. And the curious part of Zerg versus Zerg is the lack of information, which is relatively sparing, because in the early game, the overlords give you pretty much total vision. Besides the very beginning of the game, when the overlord hasn't made it across, they can... On both sides, overlords kind of being driven away, creating a little bit more ambiguity. But here on Celestial Enclave, a map where you can get 2 3/4 bases pretty much for free, as Rogue has already demonstrated. The back base has a couple less mineral patches and one less gas. It is very hard to pull one over on your opponent. Usually the major point of risk, and we're going to get real technical. This is a mirror matchup. All right, you made it this far. Might as well go a little bit further. But literally two of the best... No, I'm going to say it. The two best Zerg players to ever play the game. Especially in Legacy of the Void. I don't think there's a real question. Raynor has had big ups and big downs, but I think Rogue overall has had a more star-spangled career. As the Overlord will slowly but surely be chased down. So... with the newest patch, this is on the live patch, of course, overlords were slowed down slightly to counteract the fact that we start with less workers, which means queens were not. They were already slow, but now queens in the ultimate tortoise versus turtle race are slightly faster and slightly more capable of chasing down overlords, which... well, the natural predator of overlords. Maybe not queens, but they're the ones you have. So the sheer amount of information you have in early game ZVZ, and the fact that we're on Celestial Enclave, where you could usually get 3 bases for free, means that neither player has seen a single obligation or need to go for more than 0 Zerglings. There has been 0 Zerglings. You might think of ZV... I said knife fight in a phone booth, but both of them have been sharpening it while turning, just taking a quick glance at what their opponent's doing. And once we do start stabbing, it will be dramatic. But at this point, the anticipation, as they're both going for mass roaches. They both know the other is going for mass roaches. They know that their opponent knows that they know. They're going, okay. Now, what level of inception is needed in order to pull one over? There's a couple different trajectories. Okay, there's like 7 different trajectories, but there's 3 realistic... oh my. Can I... Jimmy? This is all what we wanted to hear here. Zerg ASMR, can you feel the creep dripping onto your face? Like and subscribe if you think that's creepy. Ooh, yeah, morph it right in front of me. I prefer it that way. Anyways, meanwhile, Rogue already demonstrated. Taken to the skies. The Mutas, potentially. A somewhat risky but deadly choice, because roaches, of course, have no anti-air capability and Ravagers only marginally more. Whereas the other direction is straight down the same road, but with even more inertia. Roaches, Ravagers, and maybe eventually getting towards Hive Tech and Lurkers. The Spire will be spotted. The Overseers with speed are fast enough, at least one of them, to evade all this. But the threat of a Spire... Oh, and a Contaminate! As he delays the upgrade production on +2 ranged attack. Meanwhile, there's an Overseer for Rogue. He's got Overlord speed on the way himself. Hydra Den has begun. Here's the thing. The idea of a Spire is already enough. He doesn't have to make a single Muta, though I think he'll make like 2 just to kill Overlords. He doesn't even need to make a single Muta for it to already have been relevant. That's the interesting / kind of confusing part of Zerg versus Zerg, is because of how tech works. You only need the tech structure to give you access to these units. So Serral feels obligated to build Hydralis. Like, aren't Hydras good? Yes, with like 17 asterisks. But Roach Ravager is a lot easier to mass up. And if you go Hydras too early, you just don't have the critical mass to add to your damage output of your bio ball of Roaches and Ravagers drooling and projectile vomiting over one another. Which, don't get too excited, we're not there yet. As this might be the longest no rush I've seen in a top tier game. Especially ZVZ. Now, it is very map dependent. And believe it or not, they both have access to Zerg units. But the Roach Ravager, +1 flyer attack is on the way, but it might just be to convince the Overseers that he wants to switch to Mutas. Rogue with 60 non-drones, 200 supply, and a bunch of Roaches on their way across the map. He's got Tunneling Claws on the way. Gonna try to go through the rocks, open up an alternative entrance into the natural. Serral's also maxed out. He's got some Hydras mixed in. It's 2-1 upgrades for Serral, but 2-2's finishing up for Rogue. He was slightly delayed by the Contaminate. But so far, both sides keeping their powder relatively dry, and by that I mean very moist with the Overseers. Or the Overlords, rather. Overseers lose their ability to drop creep. They fit a bunch of other, like, eyes and sensory organs in there. Which, did you need that information? No, but you have it, because now you have Overseers. As the Overlords are doing their very complicated mating dance, as patrolling them in order to make it almost impossible to snipe them with Ravager shots. Well, here we go. Yeah, well, the skirmishes around the edges. Serral has to drive this back far enough so that way Rogue can't just outmaneuver him later. But Tunneling Claws for both sides. And to be 143% honest, repeating, of course, the zeros, we probably could have skipped to this point if you're not so technical on ZVZ, because this is where they've got all the options. We've got Tunneling Claws Roaches. It's obvious based on their fancy little spiky horns on the top that those are available. And he can just run by, which kind of defeats the purpose of trying to slip through. But the Tunneling Claws not only gives you burrow move, but extra regen while underneath, making the Roaches the most aptly named unit at that point. Really, until they get that upgrade. They don't truly feel it. But good luck stamping them out. The Overseer's chasing them down. But Serral is like 30-40 supply committed just to deal with the Tunneling Claws. But at the same time, does he see the Roach sign? There's a couple Roaches at the natural. And there is, if you see it on the open field, you can see the Roach sign. But on the creep, it's almost impossible. The little indentation there. Oh, the Roaches at the back base, the Roaches at the natural, and Serral's kind of scrambling. The thing is, both sides are banking money. Both sides have hives. Did I lie? I would never lie to you. Intentionally. Also not true. Or was it? Spines and Spores on the way, as both players are trying to find a more supply-effective counter to the Tunneling Claws. You can't have your supply back at home because they can have about the same amount of army supply. So if you spend 20 army supply to defend 5 or, well, not 5, but 6, obviously that's inefficient. So, and since it's been such an even money game so far relatively, we got Nidus Network and a Hydralist. Wait, is that a second Hydra Den? No. Am I dumb? Again, not important. And also stop asking that. I'm perfectly fine. And a Nidus via Tunneling Claws Roach! Oh, he doesn't see it. That's in the dark. Wait, is it? No. Doors and corners. That's where they get you. I don't think any doors developed here, but Roaches to the left. Nidus down the center. Still a Roach in the third. And I feel like Rogue has taken the initiative. Serral is doing kind of the same thing, but he's on deep. What? Oh, he consumed the hatchery with the Vipers, and Rogue, I think, got to finish that off. Or Rogue did a bunch of damage earlier, and I can't keep up. This is getting so confusing. We've barely... It's been like they've been stabbing each other with pool noodles right now, but it's still super annoying. We haven't seen a huge engagement on either side. Obviously, of the map. It would involve both players usually. But the Lurkers are now zoning out. The next step to deal with the masses of Roaches, Ravagers, and some Hydralisk mixed in. Still a Roach. Another one. Serral noticed just in time to make his way by. Overseers being taken out. And both sides are maxed out. There's the Nidus network with Lurkers inside. And that is way more difficult. The Roaches are annoying. Okay, they take time. They take attention. Those are valuable resources. The Lurkers will eviscerate your economy. And you need to deal with them. Oh, he walled off his own units with the evolution chamber. What? Rogue got this strategy nerfed, I thought. Wait. Is he going to do mass contaminate? No, that's not a thing. That's a YouTube comment thing. I guess mass changeling. Changelings are so small. They're just little Zerglings. They're actually incredibly annoying to deal with. Even though Rogue got changelings nerfed, they now die in droves. When you kill one, everything nearby also dies. But when you have 12 Overseers, there goes the Nidus network. He's going to have some network connectivity issues. Serral just drive through with a relatively efficient army. Overseers give you no fighting capabilities. At least direct fighting capabilities. Some more Lurkers. Taking Serral a bit of time to actually dislodge this. Rogue is destroying Serral's back base while Serral cut through. There's no escaping this location, though. And the sheer quantity of army supply. Yeah, Rogue just collapses on it. Crushes it, but Serral has more in the bank. He's trying to get these Vipers out of here, but he's outflanked by Spore Crawlers. And then quickly realizes that... Oh, well... The only anti-air is some Hydras off to the side. Alright, so things quickly coming to a middle here. We are in the... We skipped mostly because of the map, but also because these players are incredibly good at multitasking. Definitely, like... You see that in every matchup. Serral and Rogue are the masters of efficiency, working smarter and not harder. Rogue more than Serral. So Rogue has 319 average APM. Serral has 411. But it feels like Rogue is keeping up, if not staying ahead. Serral just dove in and Rogue... What did he even lose, though? He lost 3 Lurkers to 6... What is the... I don't actually know. Okay, so we are in uncharted territory. I don't know if I've ever seen an even late game like this, where they're both going for... Well, it's Viper Lurker is the late game, but these Overseers are certainly creating... Is that to physically cover? I mean, you can't be left without detection. That would be terrible, but... Parasitic Bomb on the Overseers, so at least that's something. Vipers, get over here! The Parasitic Bomb also good against Vipers. He yanks in a Viper, but now another Parabomb. The Overseers could potentially die in droves. Parasitic Bomb only works against your enemies. It's a particular strain that your own units are obviously inoculated against. That's just science. Read a book. Or find my lecture after you like and subscribe. My TEDx talk where I talk about Warren Buffett. How is there a Lurker here? There's a Nidus in the main. I think he dropped it in. There's like 4 different methods of getting your units into uncomfortable locations, and none of them involve your legs. But if you'd like to see more legs on my Dronely fan, that's enough. That's enough. Only so much promoting. The Vipers. Lurkers at the front. 3/3 upgrades on both sides. Rogue has +1 melee attack, and he's working on plus... What is that even for? Banelings? Oh, a couple more Vipers get yanked in as the Harpoon Wars continue. A few Roaches over to the left side. The Viper Wars. The Overseers taking terrible, terrible damage. But the fact that Serral is using Parasitic Bomb on Overseers is quite a thing. Serral's Nidus and another one. And oh no. Rogue has spent so much time trying to deal with the base at the front. He's now getting undone from the back. And not in a fun way. So the second Nidus, the Lurker just kind of dies incidentally, or maybe the Spore Crawler gave it detection. More Roaches dealt with. Rogue has no money in the bank, but that's kind of what happens when you build 20 Overseers. Yeah, he's lost, how much more gas? 700 less. I'm sorry, what? What did you say? 700 left. His army, well, I guess he hasn't mined quite as much. No, what? The numbers don't lie. Wait, do Overseers count as army value? Huh. Where's the money going, Rogue? 43 Hydras. There are no more Roaches. 9 Vipers versus 7. It addles the brain. So, if one side is left with the full Viper advantage, they can just Blinding Cloud or Abduct at will on the Lurkers. But because Vipers can cast Abduct before the other Vipers Abduct fully connects, because they have the same range as other Vipers, I know, it's crazy, believe it or not. That means both sides can abduct each other, creating quite a quandary. But so Vipers are actually the strongest unit in these compositions. Of course, you need other units as well. The Changelings spewed out on either side. He might be rapid firing abducts. Oh, Serral loses 2 Vipers. That's actually a huge, and he has way less energy on his. He can't fight this. Serral getting caught a little bit off to the side. A counterattack attempted. The worker count slowly dwindling as the amount of viable bases and area between them does as well. Also, you don't want to be left with significantly less army supply, because that supply you could have put into Vipers. Oh, ban the Harpoons. Well, it's still Roach Lurker. Rogue only has 1 queen left, and her job is to inject every single hatchery. And, you know, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Meanwhile, Nidus over to the right with a big chunk of Lurkers and Roaches. This is a big play from Serral. Rogue's just gonna ignore it, which is a little disrespectful and also very interesting, as he has to keep the Vipers together. The Overseers quarantines a couple. This attack can continue. Both sides are supply blocked under 200 supply because so many Overseers keep dying. Like 10 Hydras just took out a base as well. Another tactical Nidus from Serral. Hydras on the left, Hydras on the right, Hydras not down the middle. Where did the Hydras go? Oh, it's just Vipers. But just Vipers can't kill anything. Well, besides air units, but I digress. The Lurkers, Rogue trying to take this base. Good luck with that. A lot of stabbing going on. I promised you stabbing. Well, here we are. Preparations abound. And no, oh wait, get over here. The Lurkers, 2 pulled out. The rest trying to get it. No, 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 no! No! Oh! Apparently it actually does interrupt the abduct. You can't yank them out from within the Nidus network. As hilarious as that would be. Lunges into the Nidus, but the Nidus not accepting the blue team. They don't like the blue team. They only like the red team. Those are the good guys. Everyone knows that. Meanwhile, what if you could go in another Zerg's Nidus? Yeah. Hey, let's not think too hard about that. I don't... What about thinking soft? Nope, 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 nope. I don't. So, Serral's... I have no idea. The Rogue has 53 Hydras and 1 Lurker. They both have 9 Vipers. I am proud and concerned and unfortunately obligated to announce I have no idea what's going on. The Viper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Vipers! A full-on mass kidnapping. What? He didn't lose a single Viper. Okay, now I know what's going on. Serral may have just lost the game. Well, all the Lurkers are being eviscerated by mass Lurker, which is what happens. All the Hydras are being eviscerated by Lurkers, which are like their improved counterpart. Their hotter stepbrother. Sister? Why is that the question? Anyways. So... Rogue has destroyed 15 to 2 Vipers, which is... the defining characteristic of this. They're both... I don't know how it went so wrong, but the final war will be fought with Zerglings and Queens, as no one has any gas left. Serral, wait, Rogue prepared for this. He has +2 melee and adrenal glands. Rogue foresaw the end times many moons ago. And by many moons, I mean like 12 minutes, which is like 17 years in Zerg time. Serral has slow legs, and he didn't realize till he started nibbling on a spine crawler, successfully destroying it. Wait, Rogue also doesn't have Zergling speed. Did you have Zergling speed from both players at 24 minutes on your bingo card? If you did, you were 100% cheating, and I will not allow it. And also, Rogue is not getting Zergling speed, so that, I guess, doesn't count. Oh, the sign of the end times. The Zergling on Zergling violence. After the Hydras, and nobody can afford anything. Nobody can hold on to a base. They can barely hold on to something they yanked out of the sky from half a screen away. Rogue still doesn't have Ling speed. Oh, he doesn't have any gas for Ling speed. He's spending it all on Hydras again. He's lost 78 to... He still has met Hydra Viper. He has not built any more Lurkers. Is this the end game? I don't... Hydra Viper? Oh, Serral. Wow. Serral getting outmaneuvered. Rogue just... Well, that's the... That's not... They have adrenal glands at +2, 3. But they do not have speed because at this advanced age... Meanwhile, the Vipers... But the Roach Hydra is on top of everything. The Blinding Cloud, you can still get into melee-ish range. And this is why you don't usually go Mass Hydra against Roaches, because the Mass Roaches actually just work better per cost. But these slow cracklings here, which is quite a... They're just shuffling their way. The Queen! The 50 never got speed. He's right, I'd rather have 2 more Hydras than Zergling speed. And you know what? Their job is to get in the way and muck everything up so his actual army can do damage. And it's working! Meanwhile, some Burrow Move Roaches slip by. It's really the Viper difference here. 17 to 2 Vipers. That's... these are football numbers right now. American football, of course. Sorry, freedom football. And speaking of throwing, Rogue just... It feels like he's dragged Serral to this stage of the game, and he's just clobbering him with experience. Rogue is the master. I said, just to, in my humble and modest commentary, I mentioned that Rogue is the master of the endgame. Even over Serral, I believe not too long ago. Well... I didn't expect such an explicit demonstration, but... It's not over, but You can't sustain losing 17 Vipers to 2. That you can't, right? The fact that Rogue predicted this, yet didn't get Zergling speed, both boggles the mind and expands it simultaneously. Or maybe that's just long-term brain damage. I'm not sure, but... Now, Serral Zerglings, but they don't have any upgrades. And that's it! GG! It's the Vipers. He went with the more mobile composition, which means it was easier to catch Serral's Vipers out of position. And he certainly took advantage of that opportunity. It wasn't a huge disparity in their unit compositions, but as time went on, Serral kept building. He just kept building lurkers, he kept building roaches. Whereas Rogue was like, I need Hydras so much that I won't get Zergling speed. There is a non-zero chance that it was intentional just to make sure the Lings didn't run out ahead too far. But that might be giving even more credit where it's probably due anyways. But we're going in the Rorschach, which is a completely different sort of map. In mirror matchups, the map, about 50% of the time, the map defines the game. And about 50% of the time, it defines nothing. That's CVZ in a nutshell. So in a standard, there are a few features / bugs. Well, there's always a lot of bugs, but I'm here all night or day, depending on how long or what time you're watching. But it's always a good time. You know what I'm going to say. To make your day a little bit better. Of course. After you like and subscribe. The few features are, 1, ramps. Ramps. A map with a ramp at the natural, or even like a back base like we just saw in Celestial Enclave, makes ZVZ more than other mirror matchups, and in general, significantly harder to attack. Because you can't get high ground vision easily, because the queens will poke away at the overlords. And your units have decidedly low range, especially in the early game. So that's why we saw literally build order simulator for 10 minutes in the previous game. And then there's some other things too. I just completely brain-headed, but overlord pathings. So you already see Serral accounting for it, as is Rogue. The direct path at which your overlord will be sent. Some maps, they're on the direct attack path. On a map like this, close air distance, that is not the ground path, like the quickest path with the overlord. But it will scout before the hatchery is finished, which also allows you to make some decisions about whether you need to build extra Zerglings, stuff like that. And then, secondly, the ease of taking a third base. Are there multiple third bases? Can you just... do they have a ramp? Some maps have choke points or ramps up to the third. Like, again, on Celestial Enclave, you can get a third base essentially for free, which is why we saw that. Here on Rorschach, no. That is not free. That is potentially contested. And remember, in much of the time, especially in ZVZ, the third base is less for economy early on and is for production. All right, just the ability to build more units, as opposed to trying to mine from that base in particular. Because if you don't have enough Zerglings, or potentially Banelings, to contest them on the open field, then you just lose the base usually. So the reason you don't see as much Ling Bane in this matchup, at this level, is because players are too good. That's actually quite literally why. I'm sure we'll see some, but it isn't necessarily default choice, because both players are expecting the other to be competent enough at the Ling Bane micro that being super aggressive usually doesn't pay off, unless there's some extra details. Like, say, +1 Carapace from Rogue, who got +1 Carapace, clearly hiding it in the back corner. B4 speed. +1 Carapace, of course, benefits all units. on the ground, but at the same time, the most relevant point is it allows Zerglings to survive a single Baneling hit. Yes, they are traumatized, but the point is one Zergling can trigger potentially 2 Banelings. And on top of the fact that Zerglings do not have much damage per hit and they attack very fast, partially we saw last game, but... So that +1 Carapace upgrade can make a huge... I was just thinking about last game. I'm sorry to jump back. Rogue got a Spire. He got like +2 flyer attack, but he never used it. Which was kind of the same thing as getting his... He just had the option. It cost him maybe a little bit on the field at that time, but having the option was important. But does he have the option to defend against the Ling Bane? Is Serral getting more aggressive now? He's got 33 drones. And keep an eye on the production tab for whether he adds any more, but a Roach Warren is in production. Rogue's going to build his own. He's hidden all his tech, but Serral, of course, got a Zergling, and he knows that this is likely +1 Carapace. There's a chance it's +1 melee, but Carapace is usually preferred. The Queens! Get off my creep! 1, Brenda, you can't really determine whose creep is whose, and 2, there's no creep here, which is actually a bit of a struggle. Shut up, Susan! Shut up! I know. Sorry. I know. Roach Warren and Rogue, well, trading some of it out. Serral has significantly more lings, but the +1 Carapace means that the Banelings are not quite as dangerous as they could be. And the Queens doing their job on targeting down the Banes on defense. Already 10 more drones on the way for Serral. Whereas Rogue is continuing to build units. He's just going to run by. Serral trying to pin him up against the side, but Zerglings are in fact just as fast as Zerglings, and he's not able to cut down on the angle. And now this creates a bit of an... Oh, he's got a few Banes. All right, he's got his defense Banes. Gonna split this off the Queen. Serral loses track for a moment. Almost cost him a Queen, but Rogue is just gonna continue the aggression. Roaches, Lings, and Banes streaming across the map. 10 Roaches in production. A few Roaches for sale. Remember, the +1 Carapace carries across. So the Roaches are gonna... Ooh, manual detonation. Bit of a chain reaction there. Rogue losing a couple more Banes. It gets a bit dangerously close. And even if they don't kill Zerglings in one hit, having 1 HP on 10 Zerglings is not much better once the Roaches start coming out. Serral has 10 more drones. But he just finished them up recently. He's building more. He's misreading this. Yeah, sure, he speaks another language, but I think they both speak English well enough. That's not really relevant in this sort of scenario because the language he's speaking is macro and Rogue is speaking micro. And we're just going to move on from this point before it gets even more convoluted. But the simple version is that Rogue has better upgrades with more units coming across, and Serral has assumed, probably projecting a little bit on what he would do in this scenario, that Rogue would go back in macro. He did not. And now it's 17 Roaches, similar Lings, Banelings. That +1 Carapace is going to pay dividends. It's likely Rogue will get some damage done here. And if he doesn't, well, he's pretty much lost himself. He gets all the Banes. And the Roaches drooling all over each other. The Zergling's on the way. Another clutch being chased down. They're fighting in the healing shrine. Corrosive Bile helps work through the spine crawlers before they can come online. Though they will add a lot of damage. More Zerglings buying some extra time. The backbone of the defense being targeted. Dodges the corrosive biles with the spine crawl, but he has to reburrow it, and that takes time. And Serral is running out of Roaches. The Zerglings holding him down. Corrosive biles starting to work on the drones. And even if Serral was magically able to stabilize, his economy is not going to be nearly what he hoped it would be. Of course, he might not have an economy at all. As the Roaches and Ravagers are still target firing and grinding their way through, the Zerglings are trickling across, and Rogue hasn't built a drone for over half the game. GG! Rogue takes 2 in a row. Serral, he tried the aggression. And then he tried the calculated risk of droning up. But Rogue had the edge. And they don't call him the executioner for nothing. He knows how to win games. And quite a good demonstration. That, if he had hedged his bets at all, if he had droned at all, okay, like, I don't think he kills him there. Like, if he built 4 or 5 drones and then built all those Roaches and Lings, no. Just continued aggression, adding in just a few Ravagers in order to snipe the spines. And now, Rogue, who's been on a surge since this latest patch. I'd be like, well, Zerg in general. Rogue has been... This is EVZ, for one. Which has been, historically... Honestly, the worse a Zerg is overall, the better it is for Serral. As ZVZ has been the way that he's been knocked out of major tournaments most often in the past by players who... Well, everyone is ranked lower than him, because he's rank 1. And it's not close. But ZVZ, every mirror matchup... There's a reason Clem plays Protoss, or did at least, until this newest patch, against Terran. But mirror matchups are always the most volatile, the most dramatic, the most technical. And even Serral not able to consistently navigate them. Rogue, where? What? Gold? There's a gold base here. And it appears he's very well aware. Never seen this. I've not seen this in any other matchup either. For some reason on Rorschach, the gold base gets used a lot of the time. Because Rorschach is this kind of weird vertical map, like vertical symmetry. Or horizontal, whatever. A little bit different than the whole cross map symmetry, but like this one. But this is almost an identical sort of gold base. So it's a contested gold off to the side in the center of the map. Like far away from the main base of both players. Rogue. And now he's building a third hatch. He's selling this. He's selling a pool first here. Okay. So this is the timing that you would have a pool and then you get a hatch. In Serral, if he transfers drones at the wrong time, he's not going to transfer drones, right? Like, that would be a full giveaway. Now the question is, does he care about that? Because if he sends drones, the Overlord will see it. And it'll be obvious what we're playing. But if he doesn't send drones, he's clearly trying to hide it. And he's not sending them. So. Ooh. I have no idea how this goes. It's a big investment. It takes a while for the gold base. So gold minerals. Workers return 7 minerals per trip as opposed to 5. 40% more. So essentially, now usually gold bases like this one only have 6 patches. There are some exceptions, but instead of 8. So that means you can mine the same amount of income effectively with less workers. 12 workers instead of 16. So it's more efficient. Obviously gives you a great boost early on, especially for Zerg, where Larva's at a premium. He's even microing to the close patches there, but which is marginally more income, especially with a very low worker count. Now, Serral is going to get in with these Zerglings. Will he figure it out? Okay, let's go to the Serral cam and see how fast he puts this together.
Are under attack.
Queen. He gets a full scout. There's nothing. You can't, like... Unless it's some sort of proxy building. He's looking for a third. Because it doesn't make any sense. He should have had more sense than that. Sense to buy anything but just a spawning pool. Yeah, Serral figured it out. He's already sending Zerglings there. Oh. Yeah. But the queen... I got a bad feeling about this. Oh, calm down, Brenda. I'm calling up. Oh, sh... this... Well, the Baneling nest is also here. Part of the wall off. I think he actually misplaced it a little. Well, it does not go well. This is bad. Well, that's the Bane nest as well. So, Rogue still has a worker lead. And he's got 2 bases. He's making... If he wins a big trade here, like if he gets a huge Baneling hit, then he can turn it around. But his Baneling nest itself is at risk. Another advantage for Rogue is that he has this 3rd base with extra larva. So even though Serral just cleared it out, there's still a little... eats a hit. Getting 4 or 5 is good, but not good enough, especially on defense. The Baneling Nest itself. Serral. Oh, fortuitous timing. And unfortunately, because the Bane Nest is here, any sort of follow-up is, well, it just got torn apart. Well, Serral, still, honestly, what? Rogue? Okay, it's not good, obviously. And I trust Rogue to know he lost the Bane. That's the thing. There's no hope. Like, once he just used one of the Banes there. Oh, that was his last base. Serral literally traded for the last Baneling on the map. Rogue is not going to be able to get any damage done. And Serral has a third base. Rogue is going to lose his. Honestly, it may have been a bit on the early side because there's still a chance. And he may have misjudged Serral's economy. But it's not good at all. It's a very bad situation. And almost impossible against a coherent player to actually turn that around. So Serral drags one back. Though, I imagine it doesn't inspire a ton of confidence. Because that was Rogue doing quite a ZVZ proxy gold and expecting Serral not to figure it out. Or at least expecting Serral not to be able to punish it. Maybe a bit optimistic. He didn't have fear, but he did have faith. But now we have both for game number 4. Four-player map. Can spawn in any location. I'm like 84% here. There's tubes to potentially scout with drones, though I kind of doubt they will, as even a single drone being sent to scout is such a significant percentage of your economy that even if you scout some sort of early cheese, it may set you so far behind that you can't hold it anyways. So they'll probably rely on the overlords getting close enough and then redirecting. Thankfully for Serral, his overlord will be going the right direction. Rogue's overlord is going the same relative direction, but unfortunately, on a 4-player map, well, that doesn't matter. Well, that's actually not great for you. All right, both of them sending it clockwise. Wait, yes. To the right. Relative. It doesn't matter. Overlords. Oh. Sorry, the overlords shouting at each other on the way over. Lord. Now this is an advantage for Serral. A unique one that you don't usually get on most maps, as Serral will have the information on whether or not Rogue has gone for a hatch. So Rogue is just working off the basis. If Serral does like a 8, what early pulls do we do now? Not 8 pull, 10 pull? I don't know. 8 worker start kind of actually limits the options as opposed to expanding them, which is why they're both expanding. But Serral gets all the way in. There's no chance of a queen. In fact, the pool's not even done. So Rogue is just playing this like, if he did an early pull, I'm already dead. And you just kind of have to accept that, which is a big reason why 4-player maps are not particularly popular. Though, also why you usually see them more often in best of 7s when you can't really veto. Well, you can veto 2 maps, I guess. Because there are 9 maps in the pool now, but maybe we'll get to see which ones those are by process of elimination. And so far, just the most stock standard. We got speed on the way. Both hatches done. And the major decision trees from this point, Baneling Nest, or evolution chamber. Going straight to roaches just completely gives up map control. It can be done. The reason it was done on Celestial Enclave is because of that safe third. But when your third base is out on its own, then not having Zergling speed means they can just kill it. Like that you're not going to get enough roaches in time, and even if you do, they have full map control. So it's Ling Bane versus Ling Bane, just kind of flirting with each other. And then, well, we'll see if anybody feels like busting, because busting obviously is something that makes people feel good. But is it always the best strategy? It depends. But that's most strategies in this game. It's a little disingenuous to just say that, nothing more, but I will anyways. Zergling bribes the queen. I assume with like a sugar lump or some saucy pictures of overlords. Look at those tentacles. And wow, somehow also gets out. The other Zergling decided it's going to go its separate ways. So as soon as the Zergling leaves, Rogue starts a lair. Rogue, until this moment really, has been working almost entirely off of guesswork. He gets a little more info now. He spots another gas geyser on the way. That's a fake, by the way. Those gases... Is it? I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm talking about. I really thought that he wanted to telegraph the fact he was going for lair and then just go for a big roach ravager all in. But then he started a lair. So, Serral, stop right there, criminal scum. Again, Rogue with the Carapace and a Mutaden. The Spire is on the way. Queens will shut down the Lings as they try to poke around. No Terrans here today. 5 roaches, and he's going for roach speed. It does seem like it's... I'm surprised Rogue doesn't just start... Yeah, he starts roach speed. He's going to get some roaches. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes it, actually. But having that upgrading is important, so that way when a Zergling comes up, obviously they don't have the little icons, but they can see the Zerg buildings having like a mini seizure, which is how you can tell they're upgrading. They're just getting all excited about it. A Nidus network. Serral accounting for the fact that this could be Mutas. And he's showing, there's no way he wants to attack with these roaches, right? He's showing them. He's like, look at my roaches. My roaches are amazing. He's banking 600 gas. There's no way. Would he? No. Yeah, it's all fakes for the mutas. The Nidus network is done, though. The awkward part, there's no... Rogue is actually covered for this, for the most part. 9 mutas. Oh, if he brings the Nidus with the attack, how many queens? Only 3. That's enough. That's enough mutas. Not enough queens. 10 mutas could kill 3 queens, especially if they don't have transfuse. Go straight for it. Well, here's... Oh, it's gonna get weird. Zerglings, get in. He could target the Nidus. No, he pops out a few roaches to save it. Nidus network is taken out. No reinforcements, but I don't think the roaches need them. They're gonna kill so many drones. The Lings in the main will be dealt with. The mutas will eventually destroy all these roaches, but at what cost? Honestly, it's getting thinned out pretty quick, but then he loses track of the roaches that get into the main, and a lot of drones are gonna die. He needs to make sure the Nidus doesn't get through. He can't let reinforcements or queens get a foothold. Takes it out. The main base, 16 drones dead, but Rogue has a 4th, and Serral doesn't know. Oh, that's a disaster. The Zerglings on another Nidus. And yet another... So, I think Rogue... Well, how many... He's got 16 mutas, which must be respected. A Hydra Den is even done for Serral. That's way too many mutas to do with, like, the mass queens. He just targets him. +1 fire attack is done just when he needs it, when he's finally fighting directly. I mean, it's always good to have it, but this was the most fortuitous timing. The roaches. The roaches are sent out to drag the mutas away. Sacrificial roaches, so that way it is slightly... Oh, and the Zerglings just get in. Serral actually scrambling to put together... He has the economy, but he keeps having to sacrifice big chunks of his army. And a chunk of his economy as well on defense. But there's enough Hydras on the way. It's so many. 22 mutas. But the hardest of counters to mutas are Vipers. Vipers are king in Zerg versus Zerg. There's no question about it. Vipers are the best unit in this matchup. They're the best unit in most matchups, but even more bestest here in Zerg versus Zerg. So, the mass Spore Crawler in the main. And the Hydras. Spore Crawlers have a bonus damage. They have bonus damage to biological air, which includes only Zerg air and is specifically for mutas. The thing is, Spore Crawlers are still terrestrially bound and the mutas are not. So they can stack up their damage in uncomfortable ways. But Infestors are out, and Fungal might not be enough to catch all of them. But if he's able to chain it together, the Hydras can stay out of range and still ping cushion all the mutas. So Serral has been working, at least until recently, off a better economy, but the mutas just give Rogue full map control. So it's... Serral has to turtle to Hive and Vipers, and probably Lurkers. Whereas Rogue is expanding aggressively, getting up to 80 drones. And I'm surprised, is he gonna go Ultras with Microbial Shroud? That's... Rogue is... He charts his own course. He does not have a Hydra Den, yet he finished the Infestation pick. Watch him go Swarm Host or something, which doesn't make any sense. But there's the Hive. And he's been getting melee upgrades, which makes me think very much this could be... So Ultras are not great against Mass Lurker, but Microbial Shroud certainly helps, and it's a numbers game. Because there still need to be Hydras to deal with the mutas. And Rogue's doing it again. He's showing the Bane... He's showing Serral, I'm coming. I'm coming. All right, be ready. Don't you dare. No, where you going? You stay in your base. He does not want to kill him with this. He'd be happy to, but, well, he's going to be a little less happy. He gets an Infestor, which is a win, I guess, of sorts, and going to get into the main. That was a pretty costly decoy there. The oldest trick in the book. Serral noticed. Okay, of course. All the overlords hanging out. One, how many Spore Crawlers are beneath those Ovies? I actually don't know. I think it's at least one. What is this? Rogue, what do you do? He's killing roaches. He burrows some roaches to... It doesn't exactly save them, but... He's going mass baneling? What? He doesn't even... There it is. Oh. Ultraless Cavern. I don't know. I don't know. But also 40 Banelings. If he ever breaks the critical mass of Hydras, he can just win the game with mutas. Right up until the Vipers cast a couple Parabombs. Oh, the Spore Crawlers are bleeding out because he killed too many Creep Tumors. And now the drones are on the run, but they can't run far enough. But, well, citation needed. Meanwhile, though, Anitis, in the bottom left corner, Rogue knows the general idea of where it is. He's looking for it. He's not finding it. And Serral is at 200 supply. That's actually, yeah. All right. The mutas, he didn't know exactly. He suspected, but it was too late. Just a few roaches. The Zerglings, +2/1. +3 flyer attack is on the way. Which is wild. Just in general and specifically. Three Ultralisks. I love how this is a mirror matchup, but when Rogue's playing, especially as we get later in the game, usually it's Serral, but no, Serral is like the standard, whereas Rogue refuses to accept there is one. Rogue is, again, in command of the game. The thing is, all of these mutas could die in like 4 seconds. Parasitic Bomb does 125 damage. Mutas have 120 HP, but they regenerate 1.4 HP per second, which means a Parasitic Bomb will leave them with like 7 HP by the end of it. It also does not stack, but one fungal and a Parabomb kills a muta. And pretty much any mutas nearby because of how all that works. So right now there are 23 mutas. Thing is, Rogue now has a incredible income league. There's quite a split in upgrades. We got Tunneling Claws on the way. Adaptive Talons for the Lurkers. Speed and Speed Burrow. How did Zerglings get in the main? They assassinated a queen. These burrowing lings, if only you could morph Banes while burrowed. Another Nidus in the corner. Ultra's chasing a changeling. Oh, like a cat toy there. Gonna use the... Oh, did he catch a glimpse? Technically, yes. Practically... Oh, he noticed. A Nidus on both sides. Evo chamber wall to block ultras. Like, physically block them. There's okay, wait. There's a Nidus for both players. The Overlord at the edge of the tube. But at the same time, Rogue doesn't see the Nidus in the bottom left corner. Literally, the Great Wall of Serral. He doesn't full wall because he doesn't have the creep, though. And without the mass spores, he's coming around the corner, but Rogue's like, I've got 17 more over. Then what are you doing? Wild. Meanwhile, Zergling's in the main. And he's got 2-2 with... Those are cracklings right there. Just grinding through. There's still the Nidus on the other side. Is he building another lair? Yeah. Well, it seems there's a chance that the main base... Serral now has 12 evolution chambers. Rogue is also building mass evo chamber. But as battery packs for his Vipers. And we're back to the Vipers, of course. Wow, this is one of the most interesting games I've ever seen. As Serral has a better army, but he can never move out. Rogue has the rest of the map, but he's struggling to move in. And eventually... What? Well, that's one way to do it. The Ultra's here to snipe the spawning pool. And the Fungal, it does nothing. Well, it technically does damage, but it does not slow them down. The Mutas, I think that's enough to... You can just kill the spores. Yeah, that solves that problem. Yeah. Because he just dragged the Infestors and Vipers out of position. There's still Ultras in the main chewing through the tech tree. Rogue just flapping his way around. Would you believe that Rogue has 100 less APM? He's just so efficient. He knows what he wants. Now, it appears the end game is remove or force away enough lurkers or get him into a bad enough position for the ultras to win the game. And now here's the thing. Serral will run out of resources. He's already mined out of 2 bases. He's about to mine out of a 3rd. He only has like 3 gas geysers still mining. There's 500 in the main. There's 80 over here. He's actually just going to run out. He's just going to starve. A second Nidus on the way for Rogue. The mass evolution chamber. The mute is still chasing things down. Serral has lost a lot. I mean, the income is such a dramatic difference here. What? What? There's some drones. Did he use the tube to get him over there? I think so. Burrow move roaches. Mute is flapping. There's just so much space. The map is huge. 4-player map. Essentially 4 quadrants to play with. Serral. Some graphical glitches. As Serral a bit optimistic with this expand. He's moving forward. He's broke. He has to go. Because it's only going to get harder from here as Rogue gets more and more of a bank. So he's finally on the open field. There are 9 Ultralisks. The roaches in the bottom left corner. Those Vipers! Parasitic Bomb, but did he just cast 2 Parabombs on the same Overseer? Which can happen. It just refreshes the duration, but if you cast them both at once. There's a bit of a misplay. I think he's got it on rapid fire. Well, players of this kind of... Nidus. Crossing the Nidus streams here. Doesn't quite kill the hatchery in the bottom left. But at this point, Rogue has enough to rebuild essentially his entire army at least once. Some changelings. The Nidus gets into the main. And there's some lurkers in there as well. Making things difficult. And now, oh no, the Ultra's gonna try to break into the high ground. Serral finally found the spot. The high ground is exactly what he needed. The mutas. Are there enough hydras? The tech is vulnerable. Oh no, he unfurled the lurkers. Is that good or bad? Unclear. He's on the ramp. Blinding Cloud. The Vipers. There's a lot going on here, and yet so little. Blinding Cloud disabling most. Parasitic Bomb doing terrible, terrible damage. The mutas swept out of the sky, but the Ultras cleave through the ground. And Serral is cleaned out of the main, but the hive is gone. The mutas are mostly evaporated. But Rogue, does he still have an Ultra Cavern? No, he lost his Ultralisk Cavern. What tech does he even have? A Spire? He could build 40 more mutas, which seems a bit risky. Serral is long distance mining because Rogue already burrowed a Zergling here. There are 2 mutas over on this side. I don't know where that Nidus was, honestly. I have no idea. Oh, right in the middle of the map. 22 mutas. Serral has 1 Viper. Does he have his hive still? Yes, technically. 1 Viper is not enough. Parasitic Bomb is 125 energy, can only cast 1. Well, if all of the mutas are hit by it. Another... You can't kill... hello? Oh, this is... He can't let that in. Oh, 2 Niduses. The awkward thing is, what do you put in them? Meanwhile, the mutas are flapping across the map. More Niduses taken out. What a redonkulous game. The Zerglings. He micros a little, almost enough to kill the base, but that's actually just not enough Hydras, is it? No, absolutely not. Parasitic Bomb. It's just 1 muta. And he splits off some. Good quarantine. 1 Viper. Not enough. Every king needs its queens, and Serral lost his a long while ago. The drones are long distance mining through the tubes, which they can be attacked. It does not protect you from attack. It's just a cosmetic thing. Well, unfortunately, while they might... Well, they're not safe in the tubes. They're just safer. More Niduses. Mutas flapping their way through. They flew past all of the spores. and 15 more mutas. He's got 3-2 in the skies. Like, these are the best mutas you'll ever see. And you need Vipers. Without Vipers, even with Infestors, without Vipers, well, Serral's broke. Rogue has 8,000 minerals in the bank, and if he needs to, he'll just build masslings again. This one muta has only 1 kill, despite all of this, which is hilarious. Plus 3 Carapace drones, okay. And the long distance tube mining. The Nidus network could be target. Well, the Hydras are I think Rogue won the game, but it's kind of taken a while for everyone to come to that conclusion, it feels like. As I don't know. Anyways, that didn't explain anything. I'm bringing up the units lost tab. Oh, there it is. We'll conclude it for the first time. A fight in the center. Well, not a fight, but the units in the center of the map. Well, that was... Of all the games I've ever seen, that was certainly one of them. Rogue making the mutas the beginning, middle, and end of his strategy. But the Ultras certainly adding some extra flavor. Rogue... Serral making the plays, but Rogue's more of the Shakespeare here. Rogue is up 3-1, by the way. Let's not lose sight of the end goal. Match point for Rogue against the #1 player in the world. The one who most would consider the greatest of all time. Though there are some very, very strong proponents of Rogue himself. Not sure if Rogue himself would be one of them, but... Serral... See, he's making the correct moves, as determined by everyone else. Like the Lurker Viper late game. But Rogue just keeps switching it up. In game 1, Celestial Enclave, he went Hydra Slowling, and he just stopped building Lurkers, which is not what you're supposed to do. That's wrong. Asterisk. And then again here, Serral went Lurker, Viper, Hydra. And Rogue's like, no, I'm going to counter you with the units these counter. So technically that composition is supposed to counter Muta and Ultra, because the Lurkers just slice through everything, and then the Mutas die to, like, a strong glance from a Viper. Which they did. But then he had so much map control that he just built a bunch more Mutas. Which, I guess, works. I don't have to guess. I saw it. That was... My brain is struggling, but that's okay. There's more struggles to be had. Old Sun Temple. Cross positions as well, which... So that means the Overlords are... So, vertical positions on this map are disabled. It's effectively a 3-player map, but in terms of scouting. But of course, there's still that other quadrant that they could potentially expand to, as we saw Rogue do on not long ago. It was like 5 minutes ago. It's not that hard to remember, right? And if it is, that's concerning. Have you remembered to like and subscribe? Well, as we go through the motions, hatch first. Spawning pool, gas. This map, no ramp up to the natural. And barely anything to the third. Last map was a natural ramp map. So, not surprised to see a more involved mid-game. This could easily become a mass Zergling play. Also, there's so much space. Like, even with the Overlords, it's going to be very hard to cover everything. So, we shall see. Not the production tab continues. I'm trying to think if any of the patch changes really affected ZVZ dramatically there. And nope. Well, Muta's being maybe a little more microable but still effectively the same stats. That would have happened. In fact, Spore Crawlers were specifically buffed even harder against mutas with the newest live patch. But 25 mutas are still an existential threat to everything that doesn't have Vipers or Infestors, or an equal or greater number of mutas. So, Serral Zergling gets into the main base. And yep, that's a Bane Nest. Kind of suspicious to put it at the back. Usually the Bane Nest is built at the front to be part of the wall off, but both sides hiding it just a bit. Serral also with the sneaky Bane Nest, the Overlord. He had to have seen the edge of the creep. Yeah. Third base on the way, but Serral's is significantly quicker, though he's also building Zerglings behind. He's covering it with that Zergling production, but if you look at the drone count, you see Rogue pulling ahead earlier. This is the give and take, like the back and forth of drones and lings in the early game as you kind of take a calculated risk. Because, well, until a Zergling gets in and sees there's no lair on the way. Which is certainly a bit of a tell. As Zerglings. And this is an acknowledgement of how sneaky you can be on this map. Just leaving some of them at home, even though he showed the rest. Now we dance. Does either side even build Banelings? Well, that answers that question. 4 Banelings on the way, plus 1 Carapace. There's no upgrades at all for Serral. He just started his lair. So Rogue is going to be much more focused on the ground, whereas Serral has options to tech up. And there's no Banelings. Plus 1 Carapace is still a long way off. He hit the Banelings in the corner. He's going to add some more. And wait, did he? Rogue canceled his Bane Nest. Oh, it's a disaster. Oh, this is not good. He didn't think Serral would commit. And this time around, Serral catches him with the attack. And Rogue, well, he's got a hard wall. You got this, Brenda! Drone! Drone, what are you doing? Drone! One job! Well, it appears he didn't need the drone in order to wall off. Serral adding some drones behind this. And he destroyed the third base, which is the most relevant part. Serral has speed on the way. A macro hedge out of Rogue. Because with this sort of economy, like on 2 bases, you just don't have the larva, especially if you're losing queens. So he's just adding potential larva. But the thing is, Serral has a third base. He's got a Spire on the way. Did he just cancel his roach speed? He gets in and he sees no lair. Rogue's going to make it on the macro hedge. Okay, so Serral has a Spire a third of the way done. And Rogue does not even have a lair. Well, this is certainly not good for Rogue, who's going to be on the receiving end of the air superiority. The lair superiority as well, technically. He's going to have the economy, but almost a direct reversal. Except this time, Serral, in the previous game, had the advantage of a huge economy. Okay, Rogue had map control, but Serral had the economy. Rogue does not have the economy, nor the tech. It's just, all he has is, he's about equal on drone. It's just not good. It's very bad. Serral only needs like 5 or 6 mutas, and then he can go straight back into roaches. He could continue making mass muta, but I suspect it's going to be the kind of, well, I'm going to kill all of your overlords and force a bunch of anti-air, and then run you over with roaches sort of style, which is very reliable. A lot more standard, which Serral is the standard, which I guess is why it feels that way. He's already got +1 ranged attack and road speed in production. Those are mainstays. And Oh, there's a changeling. This is the saving grace, as always, for Rogue, with the changelings. Spotting that these upgrades are indeed continuing. Zergling sprinting out the moment he destroys the overlords. There's like 3 or 4 of them out there. The map, there's so many Ovies on the map. It is an economic and Zerganitarian disaster right now. So many. 2 Overseers and 2 Overlords dead. So far. Serral's got 6 mutas. And has decided that's the number. Rogue has... Well, he's got 1-1-1. The melee and ranged attack, as well as Carapace. The infestation pit will be spotted, as Rogue is in almost exactly the same scenario. Well, the specifics are different, but the trajectories are the same. He can't move out. Even with only a few mutas here, it's way too risky. So he has to get to Hive, and he needs Vipers. Rogue, his Zergling is going to be literally... Well... The only risk here is Serral staying on pure lair tech for too long, and then Rogue successfully getting to Hive. Serral's maxed out. There's almost no reason to wait any longer. He's got +1 Carapace and Baneling speed on the... Where's he morphing those Banelings? Back at home. Rogue. He must hold. He can't afford really any economic losses either. He's already in a tenuous situation at very best. +2 melee attack for Rogue. Though the Banelings are going to counteract the Zerglings pretty dramatically, as they often do. The armies? Well, the Zerglings looking for an opportunity, but the Banes, just a couple of them enough to zone him out. The Queen's holding it together. The 4th base will be killed almost incidentally, but a lot of damage was used on it. And the Zerglings are actually trying to keep the roaches, but there's still a couple Banes for Serral. He's going to kite his way back, but those 2 Banelings are keeping the roaches from boxing in. Or keeping the mutas from boxing in the roaches. 18 drones dead! Oh no. I believe that Baneling slipped through while all this was happening. And clearly myself and Rogue both missed it. Or the mutas just killed everything, and the spore, including the Spore Crawler. But Rogue is actually chasing across the map. Mutas are coming back. They won't have enough damage to fully counteract this momentum. But it is something. Gets the 4th base. Again, is something. But the mutas, whoop, just eating the corrosive bile, which is a little gross, but it's not too much of it. Target firing the Ravagers. And Serral still maintains 200 supply to 170. Hydraless Den for Rogue. Neither player has actually gone to Hive, which... tie favors the leader. Serral, 200 supply to 173. The muta's still forcing anything else. And... well, the Carapace upgrade certainly helped out. But the Roach Ravager, the angle is okay, but now the hatchery works against him. A volley of corrosive bile. Serral micros back. But the numbers don't lie. And they spell disaster. Meanwhile, the mutas are chipping away. He brought a few units back. Rogue is doing a lot with relatively little. But Serral's economy will not be beat here. Rogue is really nailing the corrosive biles, or at least buying a ton of time with them. Dad! A little bit of a lag storm we had to work our way through, but we don't wait for anyone here. We do it live! I mean, relatively. We're the opposite, but Serral? The concave heavily favors Rogue. Great micro from both sides, but Rogue making use of this position. A lot of roaches curling up dead. Dodges past another wave of corrosive bell. The muta's still going. The queen's getting kind of jammed. This is restricted lair space! Aren't they also lair unit spread? Stop! Shouldn't we get along? Aren't the Terrans the real enemy? Oh, Susan, what the Go write another StarCraft 2 expansion, where the Zerg are suddenly the good guys. I don't... Sorry. Eventually, Rogue will be overrun. Great micro. But it's a delaying action. He has 55 drones. The upgrades have evened up. The mutas are still going. They will not be stopped. The mutas... the queens keep ambling back and forth to try to deal with them. The concave and the reinforcements have been enough for Rogue. But... GG. Serral drags it back. He gets the better end of the early exchange. And he just grinds him down with the numbers. Rogue unable to micro his way out of that one. Probably our most standard mid-game so far. The Roach Ravager numbers actually counting for something. Serral able to, he had a Spire halfway done before Rogue's Lair finished. Honestly, it'd be a little embarrassing not to take a win from there. But this might not be the correct craft. But we're going to Voidstorm. One of our RSL specifical maps. Very purple. Like the Void. Everybody knows the Void is purple. It's just science. Probably feels good for Serral to get one back in a relatively coherent fashion after Rogue pulling all these Zerg mind tricks on him. The fact that I think Rogue outplayed himself a little. Serral... Oh, it was Serral's hidden Bane Nest. I think that did it. He didn't put it at the front, but instead, he just put it behind the natural. And a Zergling might have been able to scout it, but it didn't in time. So Serral showing up with Banelings against no Banelings and no Carapace, that's obviously not ideal. And by not ideal, I mean, it's almost a miracle that Rogue didn't outright die. But he lived. But you know what they say, that which doesn't kill you leaves you in a rough economic state, potentially emotionally damaged, if not physically so, and leaves your long-term, what the fuck is that? Now that's a hatchery there, Lester. One of the larger type of Zerg. Almost as large as your mother. Shut up, Sarge! I don't... Is there a gold base that he's faking on this map? This is a Ling all-in. This is 3 hatch before pool, which is wild. He did it on Eternity's Edge with the gold base, which made more sense. He does not have a... He's clearly hiding this. Serral's gonna see the hatch. And if he sees it not building a queen, he might just keep going. Yeah, it's not building a queen. You don't need to turn around. He does. I don't know if he's registering, because it'd be super weird it's not building a queen. Like, what are you doing? I don't think he registered. He could have just continued scouting. Or the queen could be hidden, I guess. But Serral, Zergling speed. He thinks it's a... I don't know what he thinks at this point. I don't know what I think. It's just a macro... This is like building a 3rd command center, but way worse and more expensive. You can't drop mules, and that thing costs a drone. It has to be like a Zergling all-in, right? But Serral's already doing a Zergling. Because he thinks this is some sort of... Geez, looking for another base. He's scouring the map. Yeah, what is he doing? I don't know either. I don't know why there are all these mineral fields around. There's some just like random minerals on the map. 5 minerals, I think for decorative reasons, but they look ridiculous on the minimap, to be honest. Don't know if those actually wall things off. Interesting, but... the queen's just gonna push the overlord out. He doesn't care. Okay, he pushes it away, but he decides that just going is better. Now, okay, now what? There's a banelings as well. Okay. I think he just dies, right? So, in case you wanted an explanation of why we don't do exactly this. Yeah, some more Banes. Alright. He's doing something weird. In the great wisdom of day 9. He's doing something weird. Go fucking kill him. So Serral couldn't figure out what he was doing. But... he wasn't doing much. And so that did not work. And that did not work in the most... well, looks like we're going to have to go back to the spawning pool on that one. Okay. Now we're all... what a rogue. What a rogue strategy. Thing is... Rogue's success so far has not come from the early game, but instead from the mid-game decisions. Trying to rewrite the book on early game CVC, and then Serral just stabs him in the throat. And now we're going to game 7, just like that. The Necropolis awaits one of these players. They're not out of the tournament. This is the winner's bracket finals. Which means the loser of this match will have a chance in the loser's bracket to get to the BlizzCon Grand Finals. But the winner of this match will move on and be locked in. And before all this started, I think most people, including me, expected Serral to be a decisive victor. Like, Rogue, okay, maybe he'll get a game or two. But right now it feels like Serral is the one who's relying on mistakes out of Rogue as opposed to the other way around. I have no idea what he wanted there. If he survives another minute, he has several more queens and he probably defends. But Serral did like the most standard... I guess he was gambling that Serral wouldn't just do a Ling all-in? A Ling Bane all-in? But then he did. Okay, well, moving on. That was... yeah, more one-sided than a more one-sided than a Mobius strip there. What was that, Rogue? What are you doing? Interesting spawning pool placement from both sides. Leaving enough space for a queen to jam herself in there and make things difficult. Seen a lot of the time players will put it near the gases, but just something to give you a choke point. Overlord's hanging out. Rogue sent both Overlords across. Serral actually pulling his back. Wait, no, I'm dumb. Serral kept his further back until after the early pool threat had passed. Interesting. Clearly thinking about whether Zerglings or maybe even drones could sneak by. I wouldn't put it past Rogue to drone rush in Game 7. Okay? Like, very interesting. Despite the 8 workers start of the live patch and its intent on creating strategic variety, not a single pool first from either player in any game of this series. In fact, every match has been hatch or 2 hatch first. And from my understanding, that's simply because the relative timing to get there with an early pool is even later than before. Like the relative to someone who's going hatch first. Like if you did an early pool with the 12 worker start, then you still have some economy to fall back on. And you're not down like 50% drones. Whereas if you do an early pool with the 8 worker start, then usually it's like 12 to 21 drones. And even if you kill a hatchery, that's not enough. Like, that's not enough to counteract it. Which is why I think that early pools have gone by the wayside. For the most part. There is the slight larva buff. 7% faster larva, which is not... If you do the math, that's almost 2 larva every 2 minutes. But that's something. That's an argument slightly in favor of going for early hatcheries. Maybe not like what Rogue did there, because clearly I don't think that hatchery lived long enough to even get 1 extra from what it would be. But yeah, I don't know what that was. I'm still sort of confounded. My Gabber's entirely flasted. Of any game, honestly, that was the most confounding build. It just doesn't work, okay? It's just not a thing. You can't go 3 hatch P4 pool, as Rogue has now proven twice in this series. With each one being worse. Which the second one being much worse than the first. But Game 7. The game in front of us. Now that things are building up. Rogue gets a Zergling in. We'll see a severe lack of lair. Serral has not done the same. And nor can he confirm the same or lack thereof. The lair is almost done for Rogue. Serral is going all in. He does not have a lair on the way. Rogue only needs to live. Well, a lair doesn't magically save you. Their tech does. Aspire, or even roach speed. But the Zerglings are headed across. Serral's at 38 drones, so he's not at a terrible economy. He has a 4th base and the extra production. There's going to be no upgrades on either side. A classic Roachling Bane all in. The Spire begins for Rogue. The timer starts. He must live for long enough for that to come to fruition, but a queen is assassinated. He loses a few more lings. Probably more than he needed to. He's got a roach one. He's building some roaches himself. He's building 5 more drones. Oh, no. That's a disaster. Oh, we misread it. Just like Serral in many games before him. It's currently 9 roaches to 0. 24 lings to 8. Rogue is scrambling. But he's not eggs. Or nor does he have enough. So it's not a good thing. But GG, Serral brings it all back. Oh, what a heartbreaking end. Rogue with 2 of the most hard-fought Zerg versus Zerg games I've ever seen. But Serral bringing us back into the phone booth and stabbing him to death over and over and... Okay, calm down. Serral's timings, immaculate, and the Executioner is on the receiving end. Rogue just falling apart. Serral correctly recognizing the weak point, which is before he's able to get to the mid-game, and exploiting it with great prejudice and great execution. Serral will move on to the grand finals at BlizzCon in September. But what a series. One of the most dynamic. Even in the first match where we saw the roaches into hydras, that was still not as much of a mirror match as I expected, but certainly hope you enjoyed. Thank you to RSL as always. And if you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. Thank you to our top tier patrons and members. Big Jake, Devin, Deckroad, Door, Magwan, Mario P, Plumber Ben, Sasquatch, and everyone. Glad you still enjoy. And I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Make sure to check out this video. Jimmy picked it out just for you. But thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Good luck, have fun. What made your day a little bit better? Stay chill.